fantastic entry.
I wish I was riding a pillion here.
Okay. Are we live?
And now for the most awaited moment, ladies and gentlemen, a very interesting session that all of us were looking forward to. Please welcome on stage Mr. Anupam Thareja, founder, Phi Capital and co-founder of the Classic Legends.
So, I wanted to start with an anecdote, Anupam. In my family, between me and my brother, we've owned 4 bikes. And all the 4 bikes have been from the same brand. Started with a Machismo 500, then moved to a Machismo, a 350. There was a Electra 350. And finally, my brother's still riding a Himalayan. But he bought that bike about 5 to 6 years back because a Java was not in the market. A Yezdi was not in the market. They were dead brands in the biking world, right? First of all, thank you for bringing them back because I remember growing up seeing the rascals, as you call them, riding the Yezdi and the Java. Why did you bring these bikes back to life?
Can you guys hear me? So imagine he calls me on a stage and he tells me he has 4 bikes of my competitor, right? I don't know how to start with that. Right?
Had.
No, I think there is a very interesting story. I think it is in 2015. I was having lunch with Anand Mahindra. Some of you who know him will realize that he is a Taurian, right? And he prides himself that I'm very stubborn, right? So he's a stubborn Taurian. And he was just getting out of a 2-wheeler venture which was not doing so well. And both of us were sitting and we were strategizing what to do. And he asked me, if you were me, what would you do? So I said, listen, I got a few brands. If I were you, I'd be doing Yezdi and Java and nothing else, right? And it was just a casual comment I made from a more strategic and overall perspective. And I was also coming out of the reminiscences of, by the way, I was involved in Royal Enfield from 2005 when the turnaround happened. So I was also reminiscing the past of how to revive brands. And I didn't realize that Anand is not only stubborn, but he is obsessive and quick, right? We just realized that the Yezdi brand is owned by a guy called Baman Irani, who runs a company called Rustamji. He's a builder in Bombay. It's his father who had brought Java and Yezdi to India, and he owns the brand. So very quickly, it's all happening. We call it pronoia or serendipity. It's all happening there. He just picks up a phone and says, I was in Lavadale in Ooty, and I had this girl who was from the Yezdi family, Faribose. So he calls Faribose and says, Faribose, how do I get in touch with Baman? So we all knew Baman socially. Anyway, long story short, he fixes up a meeting. I was leaving I remember Varanasi that day, and I came back from Varanasi and I went from the airport to see Baman. And because I was there, I was wearing a kurti and a jeans, and you get that Rudraksh mala. So I was wearing that. I didn't even care. I just went to his office. And Baman, expecting me to come to buy his brand, for the first time probably he wore a suit and a tie and properly polished shoes, and he was waiting for me. But the long story short is that I went in there and we spoke about Yezdi. And like what happens with bikes, Niranjan,
yes.
Baman teared up and he said, if my father would be sitting here and seeing there was a chance to revive a brand which he built, he would bless me from his grave. And then he went with his lawyers and he came back with a 1-page agreement to sell me the brand. And the amount of that brand was empty. So I was wondering, what will this guy fill? I had a check in my pocket, a big check, which Anand and me had decided that we are willing to pay to buy the brand. And this bugger fills in 1 rupee and says, thank you for trying to revive my brand. And that's how I got Yezdi along with Java, and the story began. And I remember calling Anand and telling him, what a mad bawa this guy is. I came here to give him money to buy his brand, and I'm walking away with the brand, and he wants to put in money into our company to become a partner because that was his only request. And let me tell you, that's how brands are born, and that's how Yezdi came back into the company.
What a story, what a story. I have to confess, I took a ride. By the way, this bike was in our basement last night, and I was shown a picture that the Java, it's a Bobber 42, right?
Yes.
So I was told it's in the basement, and I took it for a long ride, and they warned me that the petrol, it was running low on fuel. So I took the liberty and took it to the petrol pump, and I loved it. I loved it, and I think you've done something fantastic with the brand, first of all. So congratulations for bringing this back to life.
Thank you.
But tell me, usually people launch brands, right? In a market like India, you have so many brands. And I don't want to talk about your competitor, right? But you're in that league, right? You have so many brands. You have the Bajaj, you have the Royal Enfield, you have the Heroes, and you have the foreign bikes also come in. You have the Triumphs, you have the Harley Davidson, and you're competing with many of them now, right? Why did you decide to revive brands in an already, I would say, crowded market?
So if you go to my Insta heading, it says, some call me crazy, the others call for advice. I think I would stick with the crazy part of it, because I think it's only, it's passion and madness, because it's an over-competitive market, as you rightly said. And I don't know how many of you know, there is no bike brand or a car brand launched for a very long time unless it's a disruption.
Yes.
Like electric. If there's a technology disruption, you can come out with it. But on an ICE engine, it is almost ludicrous to launch a bike. And I'll tell you why. Because the ROE, I'm also a financial guy, by the way. The ROE on motorcycles is very high. You know what is ROE? It's not return on equity, it's return on ego, right? The return on ego is so high that the competition doesn't give you space to even breathe. Right? And then within that, we are trying to come up with a classic, right? And as you rightly said, there are enough classic brands that were coming. But the only thing which I was reasonably clear, bike I will make, but can I revive memories, right? Because if you look at Yezdi and Java, all of you would know here that when people talk about good old days, there is nothing good or old about those days, right? In those days, they were not old and they were not good, right? We were struggling in those days, right? But the memory is so freely interpretable that the current dissatisfaction makes us love the past times, right? That's called nostalgia. And I must tell you, nostalgia is a beautiful liar, right? So you banking on nostalgia to bring in this brand was not an easy play. It was not the right thing to do. But I know one thing, that all the other classic brands, the generations have seen them on posters. But Yezdi and Java, you have seen with your uncles, those lovable rascals. Their first love, the first fall, the first paycheck happened on a Yezdi, right? So this was not a poster. You never wrote posters to your office, right? These were real bikes. They were somewhere in the memory, and human mind is a very expensive real estate. So it was there in that real estate. My job was to take it out, right? And I was very confident that when I did my surveys, when I did my clinics, I realized that this love is just effervescent, right? It's just there, right? And we had to now put a form to it. And it's not easy. I can go on, but let me tell you one thing. And if I ask for a raise of hands, do you think it's easier to make a new brand or to revive an old brand? Make a new brand, raise your hands. Revive a new brand, revive an old brand. So see, it's a funny thing. It's 50-50.
Not the answer you're expecting.
But I'll tell you something. You know, there's a movie called Sholay.
Yes, I've seen Sholay.
Anybody who tries to remake a Sholay fails, right? Or Sound of Music, right? Or Silsila. Because the beauty of it is when you make a Sholay, they will say, no, that was better. Oh, you can never have a Gabbar Singh or a Dharminder or a Amitabh Bachchan, right? So the expectation to revive is so high that it almost discourages you, because the expectation of a Yezdi is, oh, good old days. It's freely interpretable. You made everything so beautiful in those days. So to get something from that era now was difficult. But then remember, there is always James Bond, right? Daniel Craig is a new James Bond. So you can continue a legacy as long as you can lend in to contemporize the classic. Remember, these bikes were a part of a cultural shift at that time. They participated in that cultural shift, probably even influenced the cultural shift. And they come preloaded or pre-installed with emotional equity. The question is, how do you give that emotional equity a form so authentic and so honest that when people see it, if it's not, they are transported back to the same era, maybe not of the same simplicity, because I said past is very freely interpretable, right? But if they see that, then it works. So I can say, while Sholay was our challenge, but remember, James Bond is a reality, or Batman made a new Batman. So we are here to contemporize the classic, keeping the form flowing, safety. I'm sure you rode the bike, the handling, the braking. So the product is rock solid. The brand is great. And by the way, my design brief to my designer is not about the bike should look like this. I actually talk about the rider. So Yezdi was a lovable rascal, right? Whereas Java is the understated classic. Even in Indian movies, if you see, take Sholay. So Amitabh Bachchan is Java and Dharmender is Yezdi. Take Dil Chahta Hai, right? Amir Khan is Yezdi and Akshay Khanna is your Java. Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. That rascal Farhan Akhtar probably talks about Yezdi, and Hrithik Roshan, very proper, is the Java boy. So within the brand, we have tried to make as much cohesiveness because they joined at the hip, right? So yeah, that's how we think brands.
So you have a brand called Classic Legends. You've revived these classic motorcycle brands, right? So you're reviving brands that were born and they thrived in India. One fine day, they just shut down. In 1995, correct? 1995 is when I think the Yezdis and the Javas, one fine day they were gone. And today you're not just bringing them back to life, but you're also involved and associated with one of the biggest names in motorcycling around the world, the BSA, right? So ladies and gentlemen, the BSA, the iconic BSA born in Britain, and Anupam Thareja, an Indian entrepreneur, has a big role to play. He handles BSA. So an Indian running BSA, what does that feel like?
So somebody once told me out there that you are taking our Kohinoor now, right? And that I actually took it with a lot of panache and pride, right? So remember when UK was the industry or the factory of the world, Birmingham was a factory of UK. And BSA was the heart of Birmingham, right? That's why it's called BSA, Birmingham Small Arms, right? That's the full form. There is a serial called Peaky Blinders, which brings it out very nicely. So yeah, for us, it's very important, right? In this era of protectionism, the only way to turn it around on its head is if you buy a brand which is local. So when Britishers are buying, they're not buying a global brand. They are buying the best version of their heritage, right? And that just turns it on its head, right? Now, once I have that heritage credibility or emotional credibility in UK, then I can take that credibility to the world. So that's how we are building our brands. Java was the largest brand in the Eastern Bloc, right? So we started selling Java in Czech Republic. We started selling BSAs in UK. We started selling Yezdis in India because these were the home grounds. And then we took the authenticity of these brands. From that, as I said, we took the credibility, the emotional credibility global, right? So when we go with BSA, we say from UK to the world, proudly Indian. So we say true Brit, Indian grit, right? So we are proudly saying true Brit, but Indian grit. You won't have revived without us. So that makes me very proud.
Fantastic, fantastic story. It's all about the tribe, right? You speak about bikes. I don't know how many brands can boast about a tribe. How important is a tribe, a community, in building and nurturing a brand and getting people behind you in that army?
So I think generic brands will be very difficult to survive, right? Paid editorials will work less, and I know I'm talking here. Maybe Arnab will hate me for it, but I think evangelization by a rider or by a buyer is the true way of going forward in terms of marketing. You have to create like-minded or adjacencies which work. So if you see, we support the armed forces, right? The war widows, the martyrs' kids. We have a coffee brand. We just launched Yezdi Coffee, so we do brew rides. We have Nomads, which is a tribe, which is a riding community. And we support various forms of music. So there is blues, there is Java jazz, there is independence rock. So we support subcultures. See, we are not a mainstream, as you can see it. We're not a mainstream, right?
Yeah.
We are actually hatke, right? So we have to adopt the subcultures. And somebody has to grow these subcultures, right? In good old days, you say, the kings used to patronize.
Yeah.
Art always emerges and flourishes through patronization. Now, those eras are gone, but there is a new form of thing that is coming, which is what we do. Adopt these subcultures, grow them, make them into brand evangelists. So I keep on saying this often, Niranjan, that we do not make motorcycles. We are into motorcycling.
Correct.
Right? So if you are into motorcycling, then you have to build this adjacencies, and that's the razor-sharp focus we are into.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, they say that, when you have something going for you and it all just falls in place, right? And you're what, 4 years young now? 4 years?
Almost 5, yeah.
And I was just going through your website yesterday, and I love the advertising. Prices have gone down, right? That's a big drop in prices with the GST. It's like you have suddenly everything going for you. Has that changed the way you market? I don't know. How do things change post September 22nd for you?
So, as you rightly said, a stroke of pen in 1995 September. Ironical, right? 1995 September, 2 strokes were banned, and 4 strokes ruled the roost.
Yes.
So a lot of very iconic, very loved brands, RD350, Yamaha RX100, Yezdis, they just had to leave. And again, thanks to our Honorable Finance Minister, with the stroke of pen, and under the spirit of progressive taxation, she has made us so affordable that now the world, the country can buy these bikes at a very, very affordable prices. And these are brilliant machines, the amount of features, the amount of technology we have packed into it. So I think my view is the Indian economy was a bit slow. We needed a impetus. And what a stroke, what a master stroke by our Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Finance Minister. I think it's brilliant. So no, we're not changing the way it's marketing. We are saying this beautiful machine is yours now for 20,000 less. So what else? Right? We changed a big P. So I keep on saying I just launched a Yezdi Roadster on 12th of August, and you guys were invited and Arnab was invited. So I launched it on 12th of August for 2,09,000. Our finance minister relaunched it on me on 3rd of September at 1,90,000, right? So I'm very happy with saying that.
Yeah. So you're an investor, right? Primarily, I know that you're an investor. But when an investor puts his money on, let's say, motorcycles, right? How do you know where you need to put your money on, your bet on in the Indian story?
So no, as I said, we are a bunch of madmen. Three of us are misfits. And with all humility, I call Anand a misfit too, because in the 3 of us, he calls himself the Zen, Bamanim calls himself the legacy, and they call me the brat, right? So a combination. Sometimes we are not co-creators, we are actually co-experiencers. We are not co-founders, right? And I've often seen that relationships drive output more than agreements or more than thought process, right? Because biking is like religion, right? There is a belief. So we had probably the world's best brand, the largest motorcycle brand of the West till 80s. Yeah. The largest brand of the Eastern Curtain, which is Java, and the most lovable brand in India called Yezdi, right? So as I said, we cannot go into a market and try to make them buy today what we want unless there is a cultural significance to it.
Correct.
So these brands had a cultural significance in those dominant markets of yesteryears and today. And if we had the access to that brand, we had the access to Mahindra's supply chain and manufacturing prowess.
Yeah.
We had the passion and legacy of Baman being there because his dad is the one who got Java. Yeah. And he himself as a kid was in Mysore making Yezdis, right?
Yes.
So we had authentic pillars through and through. And somebody needs to take that plunge, right? So, yes, I'm an investor, but you can call me a investment biker if that works for you, because this makes this ticks all the boxes: emotional tick, passion tick, financial tick. So I think we are all right. Yeah.
How many models do you have now? In 4 years, how many have you put out there for the market?
So again, and I want to, as a part of this leadership series, if you are a new entrepreneur and if you're challenging the status quo, challenging the big boys. And remember, we are a fledgling nominee in this industry which is dominated by very, very large players, right? So I'll tell you a story. When you start, there's an ad agency that walks into you and say, I have done this brand, this brand, this brand, this brand. This is how I'll do it. So I say, great, can I have your deck? So we collected all the decks of all the people who had done some brand or the other. And I gave it to my team and said, take it, consolidate it. Whatever is written, don't do it. Because if you do what they're telling you to do, the guys who are already doing it will beat you with experience, with money, with legacy. So break rules, right?
Yeah.
So you launch one brand, we launch 3. You launch it with one bike, we launched it with 9, right? So that's the kind of madness, that's the kind of passion, that's the kind of sense of ownership that you need to bring it to the table when you're trying to disrupt.
Correct.
I'm going to take a little generic for you, and this is for all of you. If you want, remember the world is changing.
Yes.
When we were growing up, to be a challenger was very difficult. It was more a stroke of luck how you won against the big boys rather than a strategy. Because there were 4 pillars, they were dominating. And you can take it to FMCG's, easiest to take it there. There were 4 pillars, right? They controlled the media. They had the power, so the press was there, Doordarshan was there, or a few channels that were there. So a toothpaste brand or a soap brand or a cream brand could buy the assets for a very long period of time, or the back page of India Today for a very long period of time, right? So they controlled that. The second thing they controlled was people. I remember when I was a day zero candidate, the day zero companies were the levers and the ITCs and the big boys. So they had the control of media, they were getting the best people. The third which they had was, of course, they had the money, so they had the large factories and they had cost of the product, and they had R&D to keep on taking out products. So they had the product. So they had promotion with them, they had people with them, they had product with them, and the most important thing they had was distribution. They just controlled distribution.
Yes.
So imagine if as a new guy I need to get and start selling a soap, how can I match the might of that distribution, the might of that promotion of advertising? How do I do that?
Yeah.
Now fast forward it to today. Go to any campus. The day zero companies are startups.
Correct.
So actually the startups can get best people. I'm not even going to talk about advertising. That's got dislocated and democratized so long back. Today, a guy with a phone is shooting Apple gives this ad saying that shot on Apple. They don't show a product, they show the
shot on iPhone.
The shot, right? Shot on iPhone. And today, social has just disrupted that. So there is no longer a cloud that I control the advertising budgets and the media, right? So best people join them. That's got democratized. I don't need to tell you what happened to distribution. Today, on Amazon or a Flipkart or something, you can tomorrow morning be listing your product, and you can be right there with the biggest brand sitting out there if you have the right tenacity. Yeah. So you win the production, and product is no longer. In fact, because of the right people, the disruption and the innovation in product is happening faster in the smaller companies.
Yes.
So you have faster innovation, you have the best people, you have taken care of the distribution, and you have just made the brand in a very different way, like we done.
Yes.
We were the first company to launch the brand digital. And the way we have evangelized and created this brand, not by advertising, I cannot compare the big bucks they have. What they don't have is the design, the brand, and they don't have the passion, right?
Yes.
So these are the 3 ingredients I would tell all the youngsters to bring it to the table. Yeah. And today the world is made in such a way that you can disrupt if you want to disrupt.
Yeah. Actually, I have to add that, when I bought my bike, and I mentioned this to you, first of all, the first chrome bike that I saw growing up was a Java, but it was never available to us because it was, like you said, one stroke, one policy, and the bike was just off the market, right? But I was inspired to buy, I wanted to buy a chrome bike, right? And the only one that caught my eye was a Machismo 500 back then. And I'm talking about 18 years back.
2007. Yeah.
2007. You had a role to play in that, right? I won't talk about that. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is, you look at your competitor, right? And you look at their resources. You spoke about resources. What do you want to leave behind when you talk about thought leadership, right? You're fighting with the big guys. They have the volumes, they have the numbers, but you have legacy. You have brand names, right? How are you going to take it from here? 4 years down the line, how are you looking at, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years, the growth of the classic legends?
See, first of all, I think Indians can rule the global mid-market segment in motorcycles, and you need more than one. So while my endeavor is for my competitor to provide a credible alternative, I think as Indians we can really rule the world in this segment. Because what is happening is the world, so I'll tell you two things. First, I'm going to talk about the automotive sector in India, which I think is a story untold. The second is, over the last 20 years or 25 years, the world, bigger was better, right? A bigger engine, 200, 300, 400, 500, 800, 1200, 1400, single cylinder, twin cylinder, three cylinder, four cylinder, right? Somewhere in that rush, you forgot to smell the roses. You forget what is motorcycling. How does the wind feel on your face? Why do you go on rides? The relationships and the connections you made.
Yeah.
So you had to bring simplicity back.
Yeah.
And trust me, simplicity is very complex, right?
Yes.
To make a bike like that, with a form like this, with all the technology, safety, insight, but a form and a brand which actually still resonates somewhere, as I said, gets that feeling out, was the trick of the trade.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, a credible alternative, an Indian can rule the mid-market segment globally because the world is coming back. So I call this anti-fad. Today, if you look at the generation, they are just on it. There is daily trending, right?
Yeah.
There is a fad. So the word fad and trend is like the two common words every youngster knows.
Yeah.
While they are completely immersed into it, because of this, there is an equally potent need that's emerging, which is to belong somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, we are providing that belongingness by building those tribes, building those adjacencies, a product that takes you back into that era. So that's how a brand guy needs to think, right? But I must also say I would have failed as a brand guy if the Indian automotive story was not as big. I saw Rajan speaking before this on manufacturing. And I remember when, he's not there, I'll talk to him, but when they were making Beetle phones, I remember Sunil calling me and said, can you introduce me to an auto component company from where I can learn systems and processes of how to make this better? And I remember seeing them in their Nehru Place office eating lunch, and we had this. I was a kid. I was in school that time. But Indian automotive industry is a potent combination of cost, technology, delivery, and quality. Now that doesn't happen, right? Can you make a better quality? Yeah, of course. But at this cost, impossible. And can you deliver at these numbers? Don't even talk about it. People talk about large engine makers like, Rolls-Royce or Pratt. We make 23 million engines every year in this country. The supply chain is so robust, so efficient, that today, if as Indians we do not rule the world, automotive has taught India manufacturing, and I think the time has come for the Indian automotive sector to shine.
Yeah.
So with brands like this, multiply that with passion, and multiply that with the Indian automotive thing, I don't think so I should worry about a competitor or so. I think the world is our oyster, we should be rolling.
Absolutely. And I remember about 10 years back, I think it was Greece, where I remember on the streets of Greece, I saw an Indian brand showroom, right? And I know how much they love Indian bikes. Of course, the affordability, the experience, and unmatched features. So you have a fantastic brand. So how do you, when you have a set of brands, right? You have 3 or 4 global brands now. How do you grow from here? I mean, of course, you have the Indian market. You're moving in the Indian market. How do you go outside of India? Because there's a huge market out there waiting to be captured.
So I think we spoke about it. So BSA for me is a Western market brand. So it started in UK. We just expanded in Europe. What's happening in US. My bikes are still stuck in custom. So we will, I think they're lost. But I'm very sure that will get sorted out because what is the option, right? So BSA will be my Western brand. Java will be my Eastern. So started in Czech. The whole past communist countries, whole of South America, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, anything that was, so that's where the Java sold.
Yeah.
And Yezdi and Java are for India. So no, I don't think so. We have dearth of anything. We've just started,
Yeah. The India story, I want to ask you about that because you have been a big believer in the India story, right? And you've sort of seen brands come and go and you're reviving brands, right? When you look at I wanted to ask you about policy because it's impacting you directly. Do you think they're reading what brands like you want so that they help you grow along the way? We were talking about it. You needed a push. That push has now come, right? What do you think about the next 5-10 years?
So I think firstly we should thank, this GST cut will provide an impetus, and that also in Diwali time. My view is this Diwali will probably be one of the largest Diwalis Indian consumers or Indian economy has ever seen, right? And we needed that. Sometime, as I say, to turn the flywheel, you need a little bit of push, right? So I think we got that push for the...
Yeah.
Now, will that lead into a virtuous cycle? Sorry. Or will the global turmoil, tariff wars and everything will impact? I don't know, Nikunj. I'm not going to prophesize or sear it out, but what I can tell you is that India is that bright spot in the global economy today. The speed at which we are making conducive policy changes, particularly in the manufacturing side, is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Support of a brand, and I can tell this openly to all of you, I haven't faced a single hurdle, any of the bottlenecks to either launch, promote, or expand my business in India. And I must say that this is being in India and buying many companies for the last 20 years and turning them around, I must say that the last 10 years are phenomenal. And if we do not use this as a springboard and take it to the next level, then the fault lies with us.
Yeah.
I think the policy framework is just sitting out there.
And by the way, we have a few Yezdi and Java owners in our Republic campus as well. And I have to tell you, it's fantastic to see how you have grown, right? And I was surprised when I first got to know that Anupam Thareja is bringing the Java and Yezdi back to life. I was excited. And your friend Arnab is here. I want to ask Arnab as well, our editor-in-chief. Y'all go back a long way, and I wanted to bring you into this conversation because there was a request also made that you come up on stage and pose with the Java, Arnab. Can I get a mic, please? Yeah.
So, Niranjan, Anupam and I were in class 8, Mount St. Mary's, same class, same bench. So, we go back a long way, right, Anupam?
You bet, man, of course.
It's amazing, Sometimes stories go back strangely. I remember him. I was Hugh's house. Which house were you?
Price House.
Huh?
Price House.
Price House, yeah. So he was a footballer.
This is memory structure. Good old days. There was nothing good or old.
He was a footballer. He was a footballer, and I used to debate. I was a meek boy. I used to debate. And when I started Republic, we connected, and I'm very proud to call him a friend. So we keep catching up. We're very different people. But I must say, one moment happened, Anupam. When Anupam and I met, it was a Four Seasons hotel. Four Seasons? Saki, the Chinese restaurant. So we were at the Chinese restaurant there, and Anupam says, "Tu jara baith, main abhi aa raha hu." I said, "ठीक है अभी." फिर 10 मिनट बाद आता है, "तू जरा 2 मिनट बैठ, मैं एक काम खत्म करके आ रहा हूँ." I said, "ठीक है." Then he comes after 20 minutes, and there's an elderly foreigner sitting on the bar. And I said, "What have you been doing?" He said, "वो मैंने एक कंपनी उसकी अभी बस खरीद ली है." मैं तो कौन सी कंपनी है? बोलता है BSA. So I was so amazed, Anupam. And I felt so proud, and we are on the same journey.
Thank you very much. You've created a brand, my friend.
Very proud of you. Very proud. This is just nothing, Niranjan. इसमें दोस्ती है बहुत. इसमें कोई business की बात नहीं है.
There was a request.
He's just a good friend of mine.
There was a request.
And I'm very proud of you, Anupam, for what you're doing. And you have a very exciting life. If I drive the bike, Niranjan, then you better get off the stage. But I'm proud of you for what you've done. I wish you buy many more companies, take the India brand forward, and be a proud ambassador. And I want to tell you one more thing. You become the brand ambassador for your companies. With the way you look, your passion for this, don't look for anyone else.
He wants me to praise him that how he created Republic.
No, I think he's be a good brand ambassador.
He's building
authentic
a team
motorcycling guy who's into this. I think it'll be fantastic. You be the brand ambassador. We are there behind you.
Thank you so much. Really
Thank you,
appreciate.
Anupam.
He's been always been a
Thank you,
supporter.
Anupam.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Arnab,
Thank
there was a request actually. The reason why we called you on stage was to sit on a Java and pose for a picture.
Jacket to utar de. You have to take off your jacket for that.
Let me hold that. Let me hold that.
Nahi, bet. I'll stand with you. Huh? Thank you.
Fantastic.
Take care.
Thank you, Arnab,
Thank you.
and thank you, Anupam. Lovely session. I request Arnab to just quickly, if you can just. Formal.
With a lot of love.
Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Dharaj.
Thank you, Anupam Thareja. Fantastic. Thank you for reviving two big brands. What a service you've done to all bikers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anupam.
Take care.